I got my doctorate in finance. It took many years to do that, and I got a master's in mathematical statistics. I taught math at the University of Kentucky and stuff like that. And so I tend to think about things very logical. I'm very solution oriented, and like to think deeply about things. I'm a big fan of using your head. You know, my mama went to heaven at Christmas. I'm still sad about it, so I'm not gonna talk about my mama too much because it almost makes me want to cry sometimes. But my mama used to say whenever I would figure something out, she would say, "Now that's called using your head." And so, I believe in using your head. I think that if we think about things carefully and really stop for a minute and literally engage in almost like meditation about where we are, what we're doing, why we're doing it, you'll come to all these crazy these insights that can really reshape your thinking, your thought process, right? So I would say this. If you want to talk about how to make money without working, you first have to even ask yourself, like, do you even believe that something like that's possible? Have you ever seen that before? Have you ever seen somebody make as much money without working as somebody who gets up and goes to work every day? I'll tell on myself and say, I didn't see that. I never saw that. I believe in hard work. That's what my family told us about. But I did not know about this world of finance and wealth and all these different ways of making money in different ways. So when I got my doctorate in this stuff, it was for practical reasons. It was because I didn't understand money. We didn't have no money growing up. So I was like, okay, if I want to make some money, I better understand it. And that was just to me logical. If you want to master something, you should study it. And you'd be amazed how many people want money but haven't even studied money, right? And I think it applies to everything in life. Maybe it's because I'm a teacher and a scholar that I think this way, but like you want to have a good relationship, I would say, and let's say you want to have a good relationship and you don't have one, well, I would then turn and ask you, well, have you ever studied relationships? I mean, process that. Let's think about that for a minute. Like, did you take a little class on it? I mean, because think about it. Some of y'all went to school 4, 5, 6, 7 years to get a job. Am I lying? How many of you went to school to get your job? Anybody got one of those school jobs? How many of you went to school for years to get a job? Put a yes in check. Come on, just be honest, right? So you went to school 4 or 5 years to get a job, and unfortunately, I hate to say it, but in America, jobs have become a little bit scammy. Not because jobs are always bad or because we don't need them, but jobs are almost scammy because America does not take care of its workers the way that it should. There's a lot of things the country doesn't do right. Like we don't take care of children the way we should. We don't respect motherhood the way we should. We don't pay our workers what they deserve to make. So jobs become scammy because you dedicate your life to your job. You get up and go to work, come home, go to bed. You're completely committed to the job. They tell you to get there at 9 o'clock. You get there at 8:45. They tell you to stay till 5. You stay till 5:15, and you do this for 40, 50 years, which if you do the math, you probably spend roughly about 100,000 hours of your life, like at serving the job, serving the corporate plantation. And where's that math come from? Well, if you work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, 2 weeks of vacation, you get 2,000 hours a year over a decade. That's 20,000 hours. Most of us work at least 50 years. We work maybe from 20 to 70, and that's really actually conservative. I started working when I was 12, but still, over that time, so if you take that 50 years times 2,000 hours, that's 100,000 hours. 100,000 hours that you spend at that job. Now, think about it like this. There's nothing else in your life that you're going to spend 100,000 hours doing, most likely. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You're not going to spend 100,000 hours with your kids. You don't spend 100,000 hours with your spouse. You don't spend 100,000 hours working on yourself. Well, even with your parents before they pass, you didn't get to do that. So the one thing that you spend 100,000 hours of your life doing, it seems to me that that will be the area where you're winning the most. Am I right or am I talking crazy? Tell me if you're following what I'm saying. I didn't even plan to talk about this. This is how I am. Stuff that's on my mind, I'll just break it down like this. I've never ever had this particular conversation before, but I'm really thinking about this, right? So you think about this, right? So you would think that the thing that you spend most of your time doing will be the thing that gives you the most rewards and the most benefits, right? This is very logical, right? Tell me, do you believe that the job has given you everything that you thought it was going to give you? Do you feel that people who dedicate 100,000 hours of their lives to a job, 4 or 5 years of school for a lot of people, sometimes people go to school 8, 9 years to get a job. Um, do you think that the job gave you back what you thought it was going to give you? Because I mean, after all, you dedicated your life to this thing. If the answer is no, if the answer is yes, then congratulations. You're one of those people that got that hit the jackpot, and I'm happy for you. But most people are not in that category. Most of the surveys that we've taken have shown that the overwhelming majority of people do not feel that the corporate plantation gives them what they give it. What they put in does not give them back more than what they put in, right? Because in my view, it's very simple. If you dedicate 100,000 hours of your life, the majority of your life to doing something, not only would you be great at it, and a lot of you are great at your jobs, but you would get rewarded for being great, right? You work 40, 50 years, you should be financially secure. You work all like just like I believe soldiers. Any soldier who goes to battle on behalf of this country should be taken care of for life. But we don't do that for soldiers. We know my father served in Vietnam. He came home. They called him a baby killer and treated him badly. Didn't even help him overcome his heroin addiction. He had to do that on his own. So we know that that there are these things in America that we're told to do, but they're very scammy. So the job, in my view, for many people turns out to be a scam because how in the hell is it that you can work 50 years at something and still have a net worth that is lower than a newborn baby? Like really, there are babies being born in the hospital right down the street in Chicago where I live that have a higher net worth than people who've been working 30 or 40 or 50 years. College graduates who've been working 40 or 50 years. That's insanity. That's crazy. So, with that said, my belief, my hope for you is that you'll question everything. You'll question everything about what you were taught growing up. You'll question what you perceive to be the best pathway to move forward economically, so that you can form new answers that will get you what you actually want, that will get you what you deserve. Okay, so passive income is something that I believe should be included in the economic education of every child, definitely in my community. Anybody that listens to me, this is what I want for the kids, but really anybody who's listening. So moving on. All right. So maybe you want to generate passive income. Maybe you want to level up your life. I assume you want to level up. And just to finish the point I was making earlier about what you spend your time on, I would say anything that matters for you, you should be studying that, right? So again, you spent years studying how to get a job. Well, if your goal is also to have a good relationship, I would take a class on a relationship. If your goal is to be healthy, take a class on health and eating right. If your goal is to be happy, they have classes on happiness, right? So anything that you want, and then so with money, most of you want money. Well, then I think, to me, in my view, again, simple logic. I don't need a PhD to come to this conclusion. If money matters for you, then I would turn and ask you, how much time do you spend studying money? And if the answer is none or very little, then that would explain the outcome, right? When you look at the input, you're talking about none or very little. So the outcome becomes what? None or very little. I have very little money because I spend very little time understanding the nature of money and where it comes from. So, in one other thing about investing that I see it happen too much on the internet. People invest in the wrong ways. They invest in ways that are sloppy and crazy and cause them to lose a lot of money. A lot of times these are 24, 25-year-olds who started investing last week, but they treat it a lot like it's sports gambling, so they end up losing insane amounts of money when the market goes south. I believe in safe and affordable investing, but that's why I tend to appeal more to grown folks. I appeal to people that are 30 years and older, or people that have responsibilities. A 24-year-old is probably going to think I'm just being overly conservative or being a hater or being an old man, but that's fine. Leaving a legacy of generational wealth. Legacy is important. We want our children to be at our funeral and to say, my life is better because this guy was here or this woman was here. What do you want to avoid? Generational curses. Give me a yes in the chat if you feel that your family has been hit with unfair generational curses financially. Any curses? Any like so? For example, if you didn't get an inheritance, if no one ever left you a nickel, then that's a generational curse. So how many people are in that category where nobody's ever left you nothing? Everything you had to get it on your own. You had to figure it out. I start with nothing. That sucks. It's terrible. I used to be a track coach back in my previous life in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm from. And we used to run the 4x4 100-meter relay where one guy runs and then he passes the baton to the other one. And the other one who gets the baton, he gets a running start, right? So the winning the relay race is predicated on at least three things. One, one, you need teammates. You need fast teammates that are going to run hard. You can't run the whole race by yourself. The time that my team ran in high school was faster than the fastest human being on the planet could run by himself. Michael Johnson could not beat our relay team because there were four of us and one of him. So teamwork matters. So type the word teamwork in the chat if you get what I'm saying. This relates to wealth. I promise you, it relates to wealth. Number two, besides, so type teamwork. Number two is the baton must get around the track. If anybody decides, hey, I ran real hard, look at me, I'm so fast. Let me throw the baton in the lake. Is the team going to win the race? Yes or no? How's the team going to do if they do that? What do y'all think? No, they're not going to win. It's going to be a very bad. It doesn't matter how fast you were on your leg. If you don't get that stick around the track, you will lose. You must hold on to the baton and make sure it gets in the hands of the person after you. And if you don't believe me, then go watch the U.S. Olympic men's 4x100 meter relay team, the fastest human beings on the planet. And if these fools can't get the damn stick around the track, drives me crazy. Um, what else? Well, number three is that each sprinter must get a running start. Right. So the way you win is the first person, they run up and they're running and they say, go. And then you take off and then they say, stick. And you stick your arm back and they give you the baton and you are running when you are taking off, but you're not starting from scratch. You're taking off with a running start. Am I right? Anybody else ever run track? Anybody been on the track team before? Anybody? Okay, I see. All Things Possible Consulting. Okay, put that URL in the chat. That's a nice name. Let's put your real name in there too. I assume your name's not All Things Possible. I'll call you ATP. All right, so Miss ATP, she was a track star, and so you look at those three truths about running track, about winning a relay race. You need teammates. You can't do it by yourself. The baton has to get around the track, and everybody needs to get a running start. Well, the same rules apply to wealth. And I'm sorry, when you talk about families like mine that come from multiple generational curses, we break every one of those rules. Ain't no teamwork. Everybody's doing it by themselves. So you're exhausted, but you're not getting anywhere. So you're like, if I'm exhausted, I should be moving forward, but you're not. You're not getting anywhere. Number two, the baton does not get around the track. Somebody builds a lot of wealth and they say, look at me, look at me, look at the good job I had, and look at how successful my life was. And then nobody makes a plan to pass the wealth down. You don't even pass the knowledge down. Not only did you not leave no money, but you didn't even explain to anybody how you became successful. So they literally start with nothing, as if you never lived. You were never here. That is criminal to me. I'm sorry. That should infuriate all of us, right? So what's the next? So because remember, if the baton is not passed around, then you can't win the race. And then third, you have the problem where everybody has to start flat-footed. You should have a running start. What does that look like? A running start means that, again, here's what a running start looks like economically. It means not only did I work hard to build wealth that I could pass on, but I'm passing it to the children and I'm training them. I'm not letting them learn about finances accidentally when they're 38 years old. They learn about wealth when they're 5. They're learning about the stock market when they're 7. They're learning about stock options when they're 9. They're learning real estate when they're 4. Right? So they're getting a massive head start, a big running start, to the point where by the time they hit adulthood, when the race really begins, that's when the competition happens. That's when young people start freaking out, crying, having nervous breakdowns because their parents did not properly pass the baton, did not get them a running start, nobody did their job. They freak out because they're losing the race. Well, they're losing because we never ran track before. If we were all on the track team, then we would all get this analogy. You would understand what I'm talking about. And you would know how impossible it is to win if you don't follow those basic rules. 4 people get the baton around the track, everybody gets a running start. You do that, your children they're millionaires, no problem. They're definitely thousandaires. They got a few $100,000 in the bank. And all of these problems that we talk about, all these things that we think are supposed to happen just because they're black, or just because it's a woman, or just because whatever, right? Those things don't have to occur, right? So if I sound like I'm yelling, it's because this stuff really, I'm not gonna lie, this really pisses me off. I'm gonna have to be honest with you. I really wish that we would internalize this, because I mean, you got 5-year-olds learning how to twerk, they can learn how to invest too. Right, shoot. All right, anyway, let's keep going. All right, so we got the trauma of financial insecurity. Trauma's big. Financial insecurity is traumatic. My wife is a therapist and a trauma expert, and we did research in the Black Business School where it's going to be published in an academic journal, because academic journals don't study Black people that much. And what we found in the research is that people who go through a lot of trauma as children have a hard time with spending, saving, and investing, because a lot of your choices are built around trauma responses. And it's for the same reason they might struggle with relationships or mental health or physical health. So the healing has to be a part of it as well. And I'm telling you, having money in your pocket helps you in the healing process. The stress of working for other people, I think maybe that's something you want to get away from. All the studies show that when you work for other people, especially when they don't like you or don't treat you well, it's very it kills you. Actually, you die younger because of this. So we want to get away from that. All right. So who am I? Well, that's me and my third birthday party. I heard it was a blast. That's my grandmother holding me. The panther behind me is my grandmother. Her name is Felicia, and she was born in 1936. She raised 4 kids all by herself, and she never made more than $22,000 a year. And despite that, she had perfect credit. Her car was paid off, house was paid off. She also had plenty of money in the bank. And I remember watching my grandmother, who never took a finance class. I saw her loaning money to people who made 5 times more money than her. So my grandmother was my first finance teacher. She didn't teach me deliberately. She didn't sit down and say, "Here, let me show you how finances work." She didn't even know anything about the stock market. She just showed me through action, in terms of having a type of culture in her household that she followed, that was built around security, built around, like she would say, I ain't got time for that foolishness. Anybody else's grandma talk like that, right? She like, I ain't got time for that foolishness, because she was a single mother that had to figure it out, and she didn't have time to get caught up in a bunch of nonsense. She had to take care of the family. So my mother was 17 when she gave birth to me. I would say my mother was so young that I think she and I went to elementary school together. I think when I was in the first grade, she was in the fourth. And so we were kind of the product of a lot of these generational curses that you talk about. In fact, everybody, I mean, pretty much the consensus at that time in general is, if you're a young Black girl and the daddy ain't around and you ain't got no money, then they always tell you, like, that boy, that child is a waste of time, and or it's going to be a liability. And thank God my mother was a religious woman, and so she gave me to God, and God took care of me and her, and our financial problems were very temporary, and we had a 50-year 50 some over 50 years just together, with an amazing experience. And I was able to do very nice things for her, because I was so appreciative that she didn't give up on me, that she made an investment in me. And when I paid off her house, she was thanking me for it, and I said, "Don't thank me." I told my parents, I said, "Don't thank me." I said, "You didn't have to give birth to me. I know you invested in me. I'm just a return on your investment. That's all I am. You should call me ROI, because I'm a return on investment. You made an investment in me, which was risky and difficult. It would have been easier to just terminate me, but you didn't. So here I am, showing up, paying off your house as a thank you." And same thing with my father. My father that raised me, he did go to Vietnam and have the heroin. Both of my fathers were addicted to heroin. One of them couldn't walk away from heroin, because I hear heroin's a hell of a drug. And the other one walked away from it, and he chose to raise me even though I wasn't his son. So same thing to him. I said, "I'm your return on investment." And one of the biggest things you should know about investing is that most investments you make that matter the most are not related to money. The biggest investments you make are actually related to people. And sometimes we undervalue people. And I think that's really important to understand in the age of AI, where we think AI can replace people. It cannot, right? The human beings in your life really matter. They're assets. Use that. Okay. All right. So moving on. I used to have a dream job. It was a six-figure dream job when I finished at Syracuse University, or when I went to Syracuse after I finished my doctorate at Ohio State. I was making $115,000 a year, and I thought I'd made it. I was like, "Yeah, I got a great job. Ooh, look at all this money I made." And it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I realized not long after I got there that there's got to be more out here than that. And also in school, when I was in high school, middle school, elementary school, I failed most of my classes Not, it wasn't because I couldn't do the work. It was because I just felt like school was almost like a penitentiary, and I just, I had the standard black boy treatment. And I think if I'd gone to a good black school with teachers that loved me, I probably would have shined. But the school I went to didn't bring that out of me. I was a single father at the age of 18. I was a virgin from the time I was born, of course, and then I spent most of my life trying to give my virginity away, and nobody would take it. And then I met my first girlfriend when I was 17, and we worked at Taco Bell. And then we discovered this thing nobody knew about, this amazing secret called sex, and we liked it. And then we found out that sex can lead to pregnancy. And so I always warn people, and I'm warning you, stay away from tacos because tacos will get you in trouble every time. Tacos will create babies, mamas, and baby daddies. All right. So what did I choose to become? Well, so I turned 18. I had this baby coming. I was scared to death, didn't know what to do. And I went to University of Kentucky because I had three choices: either military, work at Taco Bell, or go to college. I didn't want to keep working at Taco Bell because my boss was mean. His name was Ken. He liked to yell at people. I didn't want to get yelled at my whole life. Military, I almost joined military, but my recruiter told me a lie. And when he lied to me, it made me think, well, if you're lying to me about this one thing, you could be lying to me about anything. And so one of my father's friends, who was also a veteran, kind of warned me about that, and it made me rethink the military thing. But I almost did that, and I have a lot of respect for soldiers, by the way. So thank you to those of you who served the country. And then third was college. So this group called Black Achievers gave me just enough money to barely get on campus, like toilet paper money. And so I got to college and I did not know how to study at all. I didn't know anything about studying. Studying was for like white people and nerds and people that wore tiny glasses to class. I didn't know much about that. So I just was like, okay, how many hours a day should I study? And I figured, well, if I work 9 hours a day at Taco Bell, I can study for 4 or 5 hours a day. That was my logic. I thought everybody did that. And I didn't know that. If you know college students, you know college students don't study 4 or 5 hours a day. So instantaneously, I shot through the rankings, right? And it's interesting to me that I can see a person that will work 8, 9, 10 hours a day on a job and be very consistent and very dedicated, very loyal, but won't spend 2 hours a day working on their dream, right? It won't spend 2 hours a day working on better in their life. And I think that that's something you got to really ask yourself about. Like, what is it that makes us super loyal to the job, but not loyal to ourselves? Why do we invest more over here than we invest right at home in ourselves, in our own families, right? And so the other thing was I played sports. And I figured I learned from sports, to work consistently toward your goal and stuff like that. So I just applied that, and I did pretty well. In college, I became the Wall Street Journal Outstanding Graduating Senior. I got two bachelor's degrees in 4 years with a triple major in finance, economics, and business management. I went on to get a master's degree in mathematical statistics and a PhD in finance, and I've taught at a few universities: University of Kentucky, Indiana University, Syracuse University, the Ohio State University, which has the greatest football team in the history of the earth right now. I'm really excited about that. And I also taught in China, in Europe, in Africa, and stuff like that. Okay, so I've written a few books. My latest book is it's a bestseller on Amazon in the public finance category, and it's called The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power. And if you want to go to drboycebooks.com, you can take a look, drboycebooks.com. And also, I've appeared on a lot of media outlets. I did a lot of media through the years. And the Black Business School, my goal when I left Syracuse was I wanted to create the next great HBCU, but I wanted it to be independent, and I wanted it to be built around powernomics principles of ownership and wealth and family and things that are going to make us great and powerful and strong. And so we did that, and we have over a 250,000 students now in the Black Business School. So I'm super proud because we never took government money, we didn't take corporate money, we didn't take Democrat, Republican money. Like, this is truly an independent Black-owned institution, and I'm super proud of the fact that we were able to pull this off. Right? Also, we on YouTube and stuff, we have a few million, almost a billion views or something. I don't know. My biggest investment ever was that lady right there. I proposed to my wife in front of everybody, and it was wild. And and I think about that as a massive investment because I don't think, again, remember I tell you, most of your investments that you make, the biggest investments you make are not related to money. It's more related to stuff like people. And so, like with marriage, divorce is actually one of the biggest wealth killers that there is. And also, choosing the right partner makes a big difference in terms of either accelerating or decelerating your economic legacy, right? So, and the other thing too is I always wanted to marry a black woman because I just said, well, I mean, if I'm going to share my wealth with somebody, I want to share it with somebody who understands my struggles. Nothing against anybody else. I'm not anti-white, anti-Asian, anti-nothing. I'm just very pro-black, and I think you can be pro-black without being anti-anything. You can be just you're so busy loving, you ain't got time for hate. Hate is not something fun to carry in your heart. Hate will give you high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So I ain't no hating over here. They ain't nothing but love. So that's my wife, and she's a professor like me. She's a therapist and a professor, and really good at what she does. So anyway, I also learned over time when you talk about investing that the right moves can make us better. The guy on the left, that's Fat Boyce, and that's me before I got married. And that's me after I got married and I ran my first marathon. I never thought I'd run a marathon. It was the most excruciating experience that a human being could ever go through. I think it was pretty terrible, but I did it, and I found, and in this case, and this is the reason I bring this up is because a lot of times when we talk about things that we want to accomplish, we underestimate the impact of culture and community. Right? We don't think about the environment that we're trying to do it in, right? So wealth is the same way. A lot of times we can't build the wealth or build the dream or build the goal because we're not surrounded by people who are able to facilitate and support the objective, right? So you're surrounded by people who don't want to elevate, people who don't understand investing, who think that you're corny because you want to study and evolve and try something new, and it becomes harder. You're running against the wind up the hill and you're swimming through molasses. It is difficult to do. But when you have an environment with someone that's kind of encouraging you and people around you that want you to succeed, it changes a lot of things. So my wife gave me the environment. Because here's the thing, when I was fat, it wasn't that I didn't know how to lose weight. I had a PhD. Of course, I knew how to lose weight. I had to go to the gym, stop eating Twizzlers, and run a couple miles a day. But I didn't do it because I didn't have someone in my ear saying, "Hey, don't forget what this is what you promised yourself. Don't forget this is the man you said you wanted to be." Right? And so when I got around somebody who was doing that, my wife gets up at 5 a.m. and goes to boot camp every morning. We go to the gym all the time. When we had an environment of fitness, it started to manifest. It started to come out. She doesn't bring home fatty, salty, sugary food. I have to go get that on my own, right? And so my point is to say that when you're talking about making your transformation, I encourage you to consider environment. This is so important. Think of it like growing a flower. You can have the best seeds and the best soil, the best everything, plant food that imaginable. But if you try to grow that flower in the desert, it's not going to grow. If you try to grow that flower in Antarctica, it's not going to grow. You have to grow that flower in not just good soil, but in a good environment, in a greenhouse or in a warm climate or something like that. So your wealth actually grows just the same way the flower grows. From a mathematical standpoint, we modeled wealth. When I was at Syracuse, we would model wealth using math equations that came out of biology. We borrowed from biology because wealth grows the same way a flower grows. So if you want to understand why wealth does and does not grow, think of it like a flower, where it's a matter of like, okay, well, did somebody keep watering the seed? Did something get planted? A lot of people don't have wealth, but they never plant anything. Well, I say, well, how would you expect to have a harvest when you planted no seeds? Right? Or maybe they plant something and they don't continuously plant and invest. They don't water the seed, right? To grow a flower, you got to keep watering the seed. You have to keep feeding the plant, right? Well, a lot of times with wealth, that's the same thing. They call that the accumulation process. You have to keep watering the seed and make it consistently part of the culture. And then also, when you're talking about that environment, the environment is everything. My last book, The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power, I spent a chunk of the time talking about what it means to have a wealth building culture in your household. So bad habits and bad choices and bad thinking does not create a culture or a space that is conducive for wealth, just like a bad weather system does not create a space that's conducive to growing a plant or growing food. All right. So let's jump into this a little further. I'm gonna ask you a quick question. I'd like a verbal confirmation in the chat if you could give me a yes or no. If I rock it out for you and I give you value and you learn something today, is it okay if I spend 10 minutes inviting you to join our community? In the website for those of you that have to go early, it's drboyceprime.com. So let me know if it's okay if I invite you to join. assuming that I do my job and I give you value. I don't want you walking away saying, "Wow, I heard a great motivational speech." That's not my job. That's not what I'm here for. If you enjoy it, then that's a bonus. I'm here to really make sure that I can help you and support you in your goal of leveling up your life. So if that's okay, give me a yes in the chat because I don't want to do this and surprise anybody. Okay, because we raise money in the school, but everything's fairly priced, and it's we give you 10 times more value than what you invest. All right, so Lashana and Meredith said yes. Okay, thank you, Robert, and also Cheryl. Thank you so much. All right, so here we go. All right, so what's a stock option? Let's talk about options. First off, an option, simply put, is the right to do something, but not the obligation. So give me a yes in the chat if you know what it means to have options in your life. Do you know what it feels like to have a lot of options? Do you know what it feels like to have no options? Give me a yes or no. How many of you have ever been in either one of those situations? Okay, so you know what options are. You kind of know what that means, right? It's like if someone says it's optional, you know that that's not the same as saying it's mandatory, right? So a stock option is kind of like that. It's an optional thing that you could do. So an option in the market pretty much gives you the right to do one of two things: the right to buy something or the right to sell something. That's it. You either have the right to purchase or the right to sell, because that's kind of what you do most of the time with investing. You're either buying something or you're selling something, right? And so an example might be this: I have the right to buy your stock between now and next Friday for $20. So a few things are stated in that statement. Number one, what do I have the right to do? I have the right to buy your stock. So you own the stock. I have the right to purchase that stock from you, right? And what else is stated in here? Well, we got to agree on the price. Okay, what's the, because remember, me buying it, if I say, yeah, I'll buy it, well, that's not a complete sentence because the price matters. If I tell you I got a beautiful Mercedes out back, would you like to buy my Mercedes? I hope that I'm going to encourage you not to say yes, because then if you say yes, I'm going to say, oh, well, that'll cost you $10 million, right? So if I say, would you like to buy my Mercedes? You should say, well, how much for what's the price? The price is everything in investing. Price is everything. Price is everything. Price is everything. So I have the right to buy your stock between now and next Friday for $20. The third thing that's mentioned in the statement is time. With the stock option, you always have a time, like a ticking clock, where you're giving someone the option to do something, but there's always a time limit. And that's actually something in negotiation they recommend. Like if you give somebody a choice or an option, give them a time limit. Like if you're in a lawsuit and you make an offer, say you got 24 hours. They, like lawyers will do that. They'll be like, you got 24 hours to take the deal or not take the deal. They always, because if you don't put a clock on it, it weakens the value of the option. That's what happens. Okay. So every option has a buyer and it has a seller, but that's really investing in general. When they pick stock prices do not come out of the sky. Stock prices come from a trade, and there has to be a buyer and a seller that agreed on that price. They also call that an equilibrium. So there has to be a price where a buyer and seller get together, like a mommy and a daddy, except instead of the mommy and the daddy making a baby, the mommy and daddy came out, they made a price, so they made a trade, right? So every option is a buyer and seller, and the buyer pays money for the rights to do something, right? So they pay for the right to buy or sell something. So they pay for the right to purchase the stock at a certain date by a certain price. So what's an example? Let's say that Regina has some Apple stock, and I would love to invest in Apple. But I don't really want to buy Apple stock because I could just go buy it on my own if I want to. But Apple stock is trading at over $200 a share. Well, I could buy the right to purchase Regina's stock under certain conditions. I could say, hey, Regina, if I give you $5, can I reserve the right to buy your stock for $220 between now and next Tuesday? That would be me buying an option from her, buying the right to purchase her stock. So a lot of times you'll see this in like Hollywood movies. Like you imagine Shonda Rhimes, makes a great movie or something, and then she says she goes to Tyler Perry, or not a movie. Let's say she writes a great script, and she goes to Tyler Perry and says, "Hey Tyler, I'd like for you to buy my script." Tyler might say, I don't want to buy it, but I want to buy the rights to it. And so what does that mean? That doesn't mean he's buying it. That means he's saying I'm buying the rights to own it. Like I can, if I decide to exercise my option and take ownership, then we agree on the price. So he might say, here's $50,000, and I want the rights to buy your stock, excuse me, buy your script for $2 million between now and 2028. right? So there's a time limit and there's a price agreed upon. So if Tyler decides to exercise the option, then he has to give her the rest of the money, and then she gives him the script. If he doesn't exercise the option, then then the time will run out, and she can give that option to somebody else, or she can go sell it to whoever she wants. In the meantime, because Tyler has the option, she cannot exercise the option herself. She cannot sell that script, right? So it's like if you pay me money to hold your seat in the movie theater, you have the option to use that seat. Nobody else has that option. If you don't arrive back in time and we agree on, that I'm going to hold it for an hour, then after an hour, I can give your seat to somebody else. You see? So that's kind of how an option works. All right. So moving on. So what happens is that a lots of stock options get bought all the time, every day. They are very popular. They became really popular during the pandemic because options have really jumpy prices. They, very, very volatile, very just up and down, up and down. Well, that's exciting. That tends to attract gamblers. Gamblers love to buy and sell stock options a lot of times because it matches the energy of sports betting. And so a lot of young people, you might even have a 25-year-old son or something that in your house that is buying and selling stock options. And I can tell you, I don't buy and sell stock options with him because I know the research. The research shows that on average, the people that are buying the options do not make a profit. They don't. They pay too much. Sure, you get some wins every now and then, but it's like going to the casino. If you go to the casino, maybe 30, 40% of the time you win, but the other times you lose. And some people go because they're okay with that, right? They're okay with losing money, but you cannot say I'm an investor and I say, well, how do you make your money? I make my money by going to the casino and playing blackjack. I'm gonna call you a liar because the math says that you can't consistently over time build wealth by playing blackjack at the casino. It's very, very rare, very difficult to do. Not to say it's impossible, but I will say it's very, very rare. So here with stock options, same thing. Those who buy options don't usually make money. So one person's looking to take chances. So the question here, before I actually say this, is I want to ask you this question then. So if they're buying these options and they're losing money, well, I want you to flip your brain and say, well, okay, if they're losing money, somebody's making money. You see, like if the gambler loses money at the casino, then the casino must be making money. The house must be making money. Money doesn't disappear. Money just changes hands. So if the people who buy options are losing money, then that means the people who make money are the ones who do what? Put in the chat. See if you can guess. The ones who buy the options are losing money. So who's making money in this deal? Is there everybody losing? The seller. Yeah, the seller. That's right. So if a price of something is too high, or if the price of something is too high and you don't want to buy it, then your goal should be to sell it. I don't want to be the seller. So I sell stock options. I don't buy them. And let me explain. So when that happens, when I sell a stock option, there's one person in the transaction who's looking to take chances. They want to gamble. They want to put some money up and they hope the stock moves up and all that. The other person's just looking for income. They're taking money off the table. They're saying, look, just pay me, and if it works out for you, great. You can buy my stock at this price. But if it doesn't work out for you, then I get to keep your money regardless. You're paying to play, so to speak. I don't buy many stock options. I sell them to other people, and I generate tens of thousands of dollars doing this on a regular basis. Okay. So what exactly are you selling? I mean, I think that's the question you want to ask. Okay. So let's dive into this. Well, let's look at an example. Let's say you have some stock and the price is $80 a share. That stock could go up or down or whatever. It can move all over the place. And let's say you just don't want to wait. You don't want to wait to see how it plays out. You're willing to go ahead and just make a deal that will put money in your pocket right now. So what you can do is you can go to the market, and let's say that there's somebody out there that believes that your stock is going to rise above the price of $82 within 1 week. All options always have a time limit. Don't forget there's always a time limit. So what you can do is you can sell this option. So they pay you money. They pay you for the right to buy your stock. If the price goes past 82, they get to buy it for 82. So that means that the stock price goes to 83, 84, 85. You don't get all that past 82. You got to sell it for 82. So you still make money. You make that $2, but the rest belongs to them. They're betting money that the stock will go up and that they can get the rest. Well, they got to pay you for that because that would normally be your upside, but you're taking cash instead. So if the stock goes above 82, then you sell for 82. If it doesn't go above 82, here's the sweet part. If it doesn't go above 82, you still made your money. So you get your money regardless. Just like at the casino, if I put my money down to bet on black, they're gonna keep my money no matter whether I win or not. They're keeping that money. And then if I win, they give me some money back. But if I lose, then they're still gonna keep my money, right? So with a stock option, that's what happens. If you either the stock goes up and you sell the stock, which means that you don't just get the money that you got in advance, you also get the upside, right? So if the stock is 80 and it goes to past 82 and they buy for 82, they got to pay 82 for that. So I'm not mad about that either. Think about that. I'm getting an extra $2 a share on the stock, and I already made, I don't know, 50 cents a share or a dollar a share selling the option. And if I have 3,000 of these things, then I made $3,000 from selling the option and another $6,000 when the stock goes past that price. Tell me if that makes sense. So it's not like the price going up is bad. It doesn't mean I'm mad about it. It means I'm like, okay, well, here's your stock. Congratulations, you won, but I won too. So it's heads, we win, tails, you lose, right? Because you're not the person that's taking a lot of the risk is the person who bought the option because they if it doesn't go past that price, they lose everything. Okay, all right. So they're the gambler. You're pretty much kind of like the house, all right, and the house usually wins almost always, all right. So here's what I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you a few things, three things. One, here's why I believe selling stock options is so much better than real estate. I like real estate, but not as much as I like options. Number two, I'm gonna talk about why selling stock options is easier than running a business. Three, I'm going to talk about why selling stock options is better than just owning shares of stock. Okay. So, and these are all things that are fine in terms of investing, but, and I do every one of these things, but selling stock options is my favorite thing, and I'll show you why. So, real estate's a nice investment. So, my wife and I bought this house in Atlanta, and we liked it. We paid $590,000 for it, and our grand plan was we were going to rent it out, and we did. We found a tenant, and she was a nice lady, and it worked. It was cool. I mean, it wasn't bad. I think we made 3,500 a month. We could have got 4,000, but she's a single mom with kids, and I wasn't trying to gouge her. I just wanted enough to make sure we could pay the mortgage. And then I got this picture sent to me in the mail, and what had happened was that I forgot to pay the utility bill, I think, and the sump pump backed up in the bathroom, and you suddenly had all this mold in the walls, and you had a leak that went into the neighbor's property. So instantly, as I'm collecting this $3,500 a month, which after paying the mortgage and everything, maybe we would have had an extra 800 to $1,000 if we were lucky. I got to give all that up right now because I got to put $10,000 into fixing this bathroom. And not only did I have to redo our bathroom, but I had to pay for the damage to the neighbor's property. I didn't want to be a bad neighbor, so I did what I was supposed to do. So doing this, and then just the other aspects of being a landlord that I'm sure that these things are fun if you enjoy them. I just didn't. But having to find a tenant, having to work with a property manager, having to fix toilets in the middle of the night, or make sure, or worry if the carbon monoxide detector was working, and hoping somebody didn't die inside my house, or just all these little things kind of got on my nerves. In addition to that, real estate takes a while. It's what they call an illiquid investment. Illiquid means that it's really hard. It's easy to put your money in, but it's much harder to get your money out, right? I don't know if anybody's ever done a real estate deal, but it takes a while to buy that property. You got to go search for it and hunt for it, and then you got to go and sign a bunch of documents and meet with bankers and everything else. And I'm not saying that these things are terrible or bad. I'm just saying that I had other things I'd rather do than stuff like that. And also, if I put my money into an investment, I enjoy the idea of being able to get my money out if I needed to, right? So ultimately, um, my wife and I decided that the stock option thing was a little bit easier for a few reasons that I'll go into now. So basically, the epiphany that we came to was that selling stock options is easier in terms of making money than real estate for a few reasons. One, the real estate's good to own, but the expenses can be very high. The cash flow is not as great as people might think. It takes a lot of time. You have to be good. Like you can't just jump out there and just do it. The stock market's much is much more beginner friendly than other types of investing. Also, there can be a lot of headaches, and some people enjoy that, and for those people, I think they should keep doing that. But it's tough, right? If you don't, if it's not something that you love, and then also it's really hard to get your money out. I sat with a student who came to meet with me, who had invested he had saved up $700,000 over the course of his life, and he put it all into one real estate deal. He saw some presentation on the internet, and the guy got him pumped up enough to put $750,000 into something, and he couldn't get his money out. So he lost his whole life savings. And so getting your money out is typically harder than putting your money in. The stock market doesn't have that issue. The stock market is what you call very liquid. That means I can make an investment at 9 o'clock and get my money out at 9:05 if I want to. And there's nobody I have to talk to, no bankers I have to call, no documents I have to sign. I can do everything on an app. And so options also, I found that when I took the same amount of money we put into that property and we put it into stock and just sold the options, we actually made more money that way as well. The returns were not even in the same ballpark. So selling stock options is, in my view, a much more liquid and convenient way to make money. I can do it from my bed. I can do it on my app. I don't have to actually go talk to anybody if I don't want to. And so it works. And the cash flow is better because there's no expenses attached, the same way there was with real estate. So here's the other thing. So the other area to make money, because there's three ways to make money in America typically. That's stock and bond and crypto investing, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Those are pretty much the three pillars of wealth. And so here, so I'm a big believer in starting businesses. I'm a big fan, especially black-owned businesses. And I've started a lot of businesses. They worked out pretty well. The freedom is nice. I think every child, one of our rules in the Black Business School is that every child in our community should learn how to start a business by the age of 12, just in case they can't get a job. I think that's really important. Also, the money is nice. If you find something that works, it can allow you to give yourself a pay raise, and it's pretty cool. The problem, though, the big thing that I ran into when I got about 45 years old is that you eventually get to the point where maybe you don't want to work 14, 12, 13, 14 hours a day. There's other parts of life that you end up missing because you're working all the time. And I got to the point where I didn't really want to work for money anymore. Because what happens is that, let's say you're a lawyer and you're making some ungodly amount of money. You're a successful lawyer, so somebody's paying you $400 an hour, and you got an endless stream of clients, but you've got to work all the time. So what happens is that other parts of your life start falling apart because you're always working. You have a relationship, the relationship dies. Your man is off sleeping with some lady down the street, or your husband's, with the pool boy. Your kids don't know who you are. They don't even like you because they haven't seen you since last Christmas. Your health falls apart. You're stressed out. You're overweight. All these other things because you don't have time to go to the gym. So your time is one of those underutilized assets, and it's too easily sold. And it's wrong to enter the economic system believing that you're supposed to keep trading time for money. Time is infinitely valuable. Money consists of these little worthless green pieces of paper that are going down in value every year. So trading time for money, I think, is really a bad deal, and I would encourage you to rethink that. So one thing I figured out over time is that passive income is just better than active income. And because of the culture I grew up in, where we didn't have passive income, nobody made money if they didn't go to work. I didn't know anything about that. But when you discover that, what you find is not just that you make more money in an easier fashion, but it unlocks the rest of your life. It's like a cheat code that opens the door to hundreds of thousands of hours that you get to spend doing something other than being at your job all day. All right. So the third area I'd say that I love, love, love the stock market. I'm a big fan of the stock market. That's my area of expertise. I wrote my dissertation on the stock market, and so the stock market is important because the stock market is, according to most research, it is the number one wealth driver in America. If you tell me that you're trying to become wealthy and you're not in the stock market, that's like you telling me you're trying to win a NASCAR race, but you're on a 10-speed bike. Or telling me that you want to fly to California, but you want to use your feet. Like I don't, that doesn't compute for me. If you want to understand the root of American economic inequality, it's because if you go to wealthy people, over 90% of them are in the stock market. And one of the things that I love to brag about in the Black Business School is that while the rest of, I think I saw Pastor Jamal Bryant who said that only 13% of African Americans own stock, which I thought was that was kind of low. Have to ask Jamal about that. But Um, but even let's say the number is 20%. In the Black Business School, our number is 91%. 91%. And that right there, that indicator alone, to have 91% of the students invested in the market and consistently adding wealth to the market, that right there tells me, according to all the research, that these families are going to be wealthier within less than one generation because the stock market is the number one wealth driver in the country. So keep that in mind. Get your kids on it early, invest for them super early. Moving on. So the stock ownership is the number one key to wealth. The problem with stock, though, that I ran into is it's 2006. I've been preaching the same gospel, speaking on a lot of radio stations and stuff, talking about this, is that there would be sort of this issue where you buy a stock and then people buy it and they say, okay, now what? Because it can feel like watching grass grow. And then let's say that you buy stock and it goes down. That's even more irritating, right? Because people kind of expect that sort of quick hit, that instant gratification. And so a lot of times you have to wait till the price goes up. And that led me to really sort of say, okay, what are some things that you can do if you're trying to solve other problems other than your long-term wealth? Because at the end of the day, we know everybody's got bills to pay. Like Beyonce said, got to pay my telephone bill, got to pay my automobile, right? So literally bills are really important, right? So um, stock options are a way to use your stock to pay bills. You can actually sell the options on the stock if you want to. I don't recommend selling all your options, but you can sell some of those options. And what that lets you do is it lets you kind of cash in early on the potential of the stock without actually having to sell the stock. Because the biggest mistake that a lot of folks make when it comes to building wealth is selling their assets too early, and that kind of just undermines the whole process. It's the ownership that leads to wealth. And wealthy people own things. And so the other thing is that if the market goes down, you can get slammed, and it kind of sucks. But when you sell options, you have another stream of income that can either fund your investments or just fund your lifestyle. In fact, if you want to know one of the keys to financial security, it's pretty much two simple things. You got to have two kids and they got to be siblings, and one of those children should be called wealth and the other one should be called income. Wealth is the big boy. Wealth is the one that protects you in case you hit a financial crisis. Those are your assets. Those are your businesses. Those are the other things, the stock that you own, whatever it is you own, your house. Like the wealth matters because the wealth protects you from what they call economic shocks, like losing your job or your car breaking down or something going wrong or somebody getting sick. But then the income is important because the income is what creates the wealth. So the income fertilizes and grows the wealth, right? And so what happens is that we, as Black people in general, we lead we're pretty powerful when it comes to income. Every year, we love to talk about the fact that that Black people have 1.7 trillion in spending power. If Black people were a country, then we'd be one of the richest countries on the planet for sure. So we got plenty of income, but then when you go look at wealth and you try to finish the sentence, we kind of end up lagging on wealth. And what does that mean? Well, that's because in some families they made the mistake of believing that income is the best measure of your financial security. Income is the best measure of how well you're doing, how much money you make. And income is not wealth. Income is not wealth. You can't pass that job to your kids. Income is not wealth. Income is not wealth. Income is not wealth. You know what income is? Income is the opportunity to have wealth. The opportunity. It means, okay, you got $5,000. What are you going to do with it? Now, if you spend it all, then what you've done is you passed over an opportunity. Because you could have taken 10% and put it toward, like my grandma used to do. My grandma, she had her little rules. She sent me a little list of her rules because I wrote an article for Essence when I was at Syracuse, and I was like, Grandma, I would like for you to send me your rules on money because I know you have to have some rules somewhere because people don't end up financially secure by accident, right? I know you got a plan, and she did. She had a little list of rules, and one of them was like, you save 10% for a rainy day. You give 10% to the Lord. Like you don't buy, you don't spend above your means. It was real simple stuff that she didn't have to go to college to learn these things. This is, in my view, this is the kind of common sense that our families had before integration made us crazy, and we traded in land and businesses for student loans and corporate jobs and everything else, right? We started going in a different direction. So the point here is to say, and when you're talking about income, income is the opportunity to build wealth. And the word poor actually is an acronym. POOR stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. So you end up poor because you're poor. You're poor because you passed over opportunities repeatedly. When there was an opportunity to build wealth, you passed it up. Okay? So ultimately, if you have income, which is designed, it's the timing factor. Income lets you pay bills right now because we all have bills, and then wealth is more of a long-term phenomenon that's built off of income. And then the beauty of it is that these siblings can back each other up. So the wealth comes in and creates, excuse me, the income comes in from, say, the job or whatever. The income creates the wealth. Well, guess what? Over time, the wealth becomes income because wealth is actually capital. Capital is what is required to make income. In fact, in slavery, our people were capital. You could literally say, I got, they said, well, you go to the bank, you say, I need a loan. They say, well, what assets do you have? And you say, well, I don't have any money, any resources. They say, well, what you got? They say, oh, I got 15 slaves. Well, they say, great, you're a wealthy man. So you can get a mortgage off of we'll give you a loan to value ratio, 50%. Here, we'll loan you $100,000, right? Because you own people. Right. So a lot of times, so what happens is on your job, when you make money on your job, what you're doing is you are renting out your human capital, right? That's what you're doing. But the thing is that there's other types of capital too. That real estate is a type of capital. There is financial capital. Your stocks are a kind of capital. So stock options allows you to make money from a type of capital that doesn't involve you having to get up and go to work every day. Okay. So anyway, moving on. So sometimes the market doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It gives you a bad year, like 2022 was a really tough year. And what happened was during 2022, even though my stock values were going down, the whole time I was selling options and making money. I was still making income that entire time, even when my stocks went down, because stocks will go up and down over time. And if you're a long-term holder, you can make income from selling options. So the third epiphany that I would like for you to share with you, and I hope you'll consider this, is that a lot of times a bird in the hand is better than 10 birds in the bush. So if you have a stock and you know this stock could go to the moon, sometimes it's better to go ahead and sell the upside and get your money now and then keep a little upside for yourself. Like my stock, if my stock's 100, maybe I'll sell in options and I'll pick a price. They call it the strike price. I'll say, look, I'm willing to sell it at 130 in the next year if it goes past 130. But if it doesn't go past 130, I don't want to sell it. So you're keeping some of the upside, but you're selling the rest off. And you can pull that in as real money right now. They'll put it in your account right now. And you can then go and use that money to pay a bill, go on a vacation, or whatever you like to do. You don't have to sell your stocks to generate the income. So maintaining ownership is a really important part of long-term wealth generation. You don't have to wait for your stock price to go up. You can just sell based on potential. And you don't have to be greedy to invest. The two emotions that get people in trouble when it comes to investing are fear and greed. Those are the two emotions that will always get you in trouble. Fear will cause you to panic sell and get out too fast. Greed will cause you to become overconfident. If you are scared money does not make money. You have to be able to hold on through the tough times, like New Edition used to say. Sunny days, everybody loves them, but tell me, baby, can you stand the rain? Right now in the stock market, it's raining right now. But it may stop raining tomorrow. Okay. And then greed makes you overconfident. And overconfidence is at an all-time high because you have a lot of people that invested a little bit this year. They saw their $1,000 turn into 5,000, and they think they can predict things that are unpredictable. And I'm speaking to you as a person who does research on this topic, who's written research papers on this, and I can tell you, you cannot predict the direction of a stock. So if somebody ever tells you, "Oh, I know that Nvidia is going up," or "I know that this is going to go down," that's just overconfidence talking. And in many cases, the person who knows the least is the one who pretends to know the most. Right? I know the most. I know quite a lot. I'm not gonna say I know the most, but it's really hard to get a PhD. Really, really hard. When I got my PhD, I was the only African American on the entire planet, male or female, to get a doctorate in finance in 2002. Not one other, and there were others that started, they just couldn't make it because it was literally like being hazed for several years. So I know a lot. And what knowing a lot will do is it humbles you. The first thing you learn is how little you actually know. So I'm not going to go out and say, "Oh yeah, I can tell you for sure what's going to happen." But somebody who just learned about stocks six months ago, they'll jump out and say, "Oh, he's a fool. He pretends to be a professor. I can tell you for sure this is gonna-" No, you can't. They can't. So don't listen to that. But there are things that you can do that are pretty much guaranteed to work. And what works is what they call Warren Buffett style investing. You spread your money out, pick quality companies, keep adding to your portfolio, don't sell your assets. Over time, you make money. You do that for at least 10 years, your wealth will go up. Okay. So ultimately, when you sell an option, you're kind of letting somebody else take some of the risk so that you can get some cash instead. Okay. So here's a real example with real numbers. I picked a middle of the road amount. It may be too high for some of you, maybe too low for some of you, but you can change it based on certain variables. So let's look at an example with Coinbase. At the time I did this example, Coinbase stock was at 317. It's actually lower now. Coinbase has been hit pretty hard. But let's say that you have 100 shares of Coinbase stock that you own. And so what you could do at the time I made this example, these are real numbers that you can really get out of Robinhood or in E-Trade, whatever. And also, for those of you that got to leave early, I want you to know that the information about our group is at drboyceprime.com. That's drboyceprime.com. So I want to share that just in case anybody has to go. But at the end, I'll give you a special code that'll drop the price significantly for you. So if you wait till the end, I'll share that with you. So what you can do is you can say something like, okay, I feel like a landlord. I have 100 shares of this stock, which is $31,715 worth of the stock. And like a landlord, I want to just get my income from my asset. Okay. Now you can't buy a $31,000 house, but maybe a tiny house, but not a big one. And what you can do is pick what is called a strike price. And so what happens is if you have 100 shares, you and your family might come together and buy, $31,000 worth of this stock. There's different things you want to look out for, though. There's different. I'm oversimplifying it so you can get the point. So you can look it up. It'll tell you. Okay, if you're willing to sell your stock for 335, there's somebody willing to right now offer you $11.90 per share. So if I have 100 shares and it's $11.90 per share, how much income is that? I want to make sure you're following me. Write that in the chat if you can type it in there. $11.90 a share, 100 shares. How much income do I get? How much money are they going to put in my bank account? Good. 1,190 shares. So the amount of money I receive right now, this is not a check that you got to wait for in the mail and check your mailbox for a week. No, this is not potential money. This is real money. You could do this tomorrow. You could do this tomorrow, and they will put $1,190 in your account. Now they're not giving you a free gift. The stock market gives no gifts, right? What they're doing is they're paying you for those rights. So you own the stock, you own 100 shares of Coinbase, which is valued at $31,000. You're saying I'm willing to sell my stock for 335 within the next month. And what'll happen is that if the price goes above 335, they're going to buy it for 335. They're going to exercise the option. And they say, okay, great. Here's a $1,190 in your account. And so one of two things will happen. Either the stock will go above 335 or it'll stay below. If it stays below 335, then nothing happens. But if it rises above 335 before the month ends, then you get even more money. You don't just get the $1,190 that you received, you also get the price increase from 317 to 335. That's yours. So you're going to earn 335 minus 317 times 100 shares plus 1190. So you get a total payout of $2,940. That's real money, cash money in your bank account. Now, what are you giving up? Well, you're selling your stock. And selling your stock is not a bad thing if the price went up. When I asked Michael Roberts, who owns over $1 billion worth of companies in St. Louis, I said to him, I said, how do you decide if you're going to sell one of your businesses? He said, my businesses are always for sale. And what he meant by that, I assume, is if you make the right offer, he'll sell you anything that he owns. And so here, your stock was 317. You made an offer for 335. Somebody took it. So you're okay selling because you're going to get all your 31,715 back. Actually, you're going to get 33,000 because that's 100 shares of the stock, and you made money from the option too. Okay, so your return on investment is pretty good. It's better. I would say it's better than real estate because I don't know too many properties I could buy for $31,000 that'll pay me $1,100 a month in income. And in fact, if you were to think of this like a real estate deal, let's say you bought a mediocre house. Now, I think the average house in America is over $400,000. But let's say you buy a sub mediocre house for $317,000. We have families in our program that are doing this. There are dozens of families that are doing this right now. They're pulling their money together, and they might go out and let's say they pick Coinbase. They have 1,000 shares of Coinbase. They do it like a real estate deal. They own $317,000 worth, and instead of pulling in 1,190 with 1,000 shares, they would pull $11,900 in cash that they'd receive, and then if the stock goes up, then they make a total of $29,000 in 1 month. from, and now you tell me, you show me a property that you can buy for $317,000 that will make you $11,000 in a month after expenses with no headaches, no time on the phone with anybody, not having to search for a tenant, not having to make sure the tenant pays the rent, not having to fix broken toilets in the middle of the night, none of these things. This is real. There are real people that are really doing this. All right. So let me ask you a question. Earlier, I asked you, I said, if I nailed it, you let me make a special offer to you. How did I do? Did you gain value today? Did you? And it's okay to walk away if you didn't, or if you did and you just like, okay, thank you, I'm out. It's fine too. But did I do my job? How do you feel? Do you feel like I added some value to your life? Are you feeling what's going on? Give me a yes or no in the comments. Let me know if this affected you, or how this affected you, and what made you think a little more. Okay. Okay, I see some yeses. Thank you, Shelly and Path and Patty and Neona. Okay, great. I'm glad to see that. And so let me tell you about Prime. drboyceprime.com is the URL. If you just are so excited you just want to go out now, or you got to go pick up the kids or something, that's fine. drboyceprime.com. But I'll give you a code at the end that'll help reduce the cost significantly. So the Prime stands for Passive Recurring Income Machine. So it literally becomes an income machine. It's passive and it's recurring, meaning repetitive income. It's a great way to make extra money. It's how I make money for my family. It's an options coaching community. So we meet regularly and we talk about stock options and we dig deep and we look at opportunities. We manage risks. One thing about investing that's really important, I want you to understand this. I do not want you to participate in anything that we do if you do not fully understand that investing involves risk. Let me know. Do you understand that? Do you understand that investing involves risk? I want to make sure you know that because I don't want you. I don't want it. I don't. This is exciting, and the biggest thing that can happen is sometimes we can think something's too good to be true, or that it's just some fantasy. I'm not here to sell you a fantasy, but I can. But I'm not here to lie to you. So I will tell you these are things you can do tomorrow and actually make money tomorrow. But the market, as you've seen, the stock market, there's a risk in holding stock. Prices go up and down. And so this is what the coaching's all about. It's really talking through the opportunities that pop up. It's talking through the problems that may arise. It's talking through issues with making sure your margin is correct, or raising your capital base, or picking the right assets. Things like that. And that's pretty much what all the coaching's about. And so the goal at the end of the day is to produce passive income in the safest way possible, and do a lot of income and market research. And so that's what we cover in class. The students love it. Hundreds of students come to class every time we meet, and we just spend the whole time just going through pretty much as anything that we can. I answer every single question, and just do everything I can to support your journey in the process. And so here are a few things you get. I'll lay out a few benefits of joining the program. It's pretty comprehensive, very powerful. First off, you get access to our bi-weekly coaching calls where you can come in, and by being in the culture, being in the energy, being in the room, you're getting a chance to sort of interact with people that have seen it, that understand it, that can explain things to you, that can break it down for you, etc. That's really powerful. So you get transformed into somebody who really gets it. This investing thing, it's not scary anymore. Next, you get access to a financial Juneteenth investing masterclass I created, which allows you to understand the stock markets from the bottom up, right? So I did a whole weekend of breaking down how the markets work, how to pick the right stocks, things like that. We have a patented method I call the Dr. Boyce method, which is my method for picking or selecting stocks for the portfolio and factors you may want to look at. So that's available to you as well. So this will transform you into the best investor in your family. Like, you will be the expert. You go through just even probably 2% of everything that we talk about. You'll probably know more about investing than anybody else in your family. That will make a massive difference. You also get access to something we call What Dr. Boyce is Buying, and that's where I just list stocks that I like, companies that I think are good for that environment, or opportunities that emerge. So, for example, one of the stocks that I just read about this one at the gym, and it was a company called Oklo. And I was thinking through AI, and while I was lifting weights, and this Oklo stock came up because it was connected to the fact that AI is going to create an energy shortage. And so I started talking to my students about Oklo a couple of years ago. And I just mentioned it. I don't give investing advice, but I said, yeah, I'm going to buy some shares in this company. I think there's something here. And so lo and behold, this stock, I think it was trading about $8 a share at the time. And you see now it's up to $96. Now it's gone as high as $171 or something. So it's actually dropped recently. But I think we started talking about it when it was like back here. No, maybe about, I'm going to say about 2024, about here when it's about $10 a share. So a lot of times as a group, we're investing in things and we win together, we lose together, we cheer together, we cry together, right? So there's a really great community aspect in terms of being around people who get it, who understand the value of investing, and that's what we have in that space. Also, we have a support group, and so my wife, who's a therapist, she's not just a therapist; she trains therapists on how to be a therapist. So she's a therapist. She's a trauma expert and a full professor of social work, and so she does support group consultations with students as well because investing can be emotional. It can be scary if the market's not doing what it's supposed to do. So you don't just want information from a logical, analytical side. You also want to sort of figure out how to process your emotions in a way that's not going to cause you to make a mistake. So she works with individuals as well as families to talk through how do you deal with this emotional impact. How do you work together as a family and get along with each other so that you can keep building this thing together? A lot of families struggle with things like that. So you get transformed not just into a great investor, but you also, my argument would be that as you enhance your emotional intelligence, you'll enhance your economic intelligence. And then also you can transform the environment within which you're operating where everybody's on the same page and you can build together as a family. That's really beneficial. We also have training programs on how to form an investment club with your family, things like that. There's a blueprint we lay out for you. There's something also that students love called Dr. Boyce Money Makers, and that's basically just stocks that I'm selling options on. I just go through and I just analyze a bunch of different stocks and I say these are the stocks that generate the most revenue. So almost like real estate, where someone says, okay, this property looks like a good deal, this property doesn't look like a good deal, and so like a deal analyzer kind of thing. And we actually have something called the Dr. Boyce Options Income Calculator, which is basically this app that students can go into and plug in a stock they're interested in, and it'll tell you how much money you can make from that stock. So I call it the OINK. I like the acronym OINK, like a pig. So there's like a little pig on the image. So anyway, moving on. There's also training programs on how to invest with stock options. So if your goal is to become really good with stock options, we got you on that, on all the basics and fundamentals. And then also you get access to Black Money 102, which is our stock market investing class. So we do stock market Tuesdays, which we did today at noon, and they just give me a million questions. I answer a million questions, and we break down what's happening in the markets, where to put your money, what to look out for, things like that. And then last but not least, we have a private community on something called B1 Nation, which is basically this, it's like a black Facebook, basically, where most of the people in there, I mean, you don't have to be black to be there, but this is the community that I represent, and basically it's really cool because not only can you connect with others, but there's actually a button you can hit to find other members that live in your same city, so you can form meetups and groups, and we have homeschool groups that have come out of it and all kinds of things. So the total value of everything, if you were to add it all up, it would be about $9,691 per year. That's the total cost, which is still quite a lot less than what you might have spent if you were learning at Syracuse University. Back then, my students spent $73,000 a year. I think they spend $100,000 a year now. I think that that's way too much. And so the cost per year actually is $29.99. So that's the fee to join the program, and that's the fee that you can sort of mark in your head in terms of the regular price. And so your price for today will be $17.99. And actually, because you're here, we can even drop the price to $839.72 per year. So I just dropped the price twice. And so if you want to go to drboyceprime.com, you literally could go there, and you've got a monthly option and an annual option. So if you go with the yearly option, you would pull out the code that's there and put in another coupon code when you check out. Use the code yearly. Write that down in the comments, yearly, and it will drop to 839.72 per year. And I think the monthly code is the word monthly. I think that's what it is. So the question to ask yourself is this, right? When my goal is not to, I'm not really trying to get you to join a class, because I don't think that that's enough. I'm really trying to get you to change. I'm really trying to get you. I really want to see you have more money in your pocket. That's what I love to see. That's the best compliment the students will give me is I have more money because you're here, right? Or I'm doing better financially. And I want to encourage you to take action. So I think the question to ask yourself is not so much, okay, am I going to learn? Like you're clearly going to learn. I can teach all day. I love doing this. I do this every day, and I think I'm decent. I'm good enough at it that it works. But I'm really looking for results, right? So I think the question to ask yourself is, if you looked at this as an investment, and let's say that you did this and it made $50,000 a year, would you consider it to be worth it? Yes or no? Would that be a good ROI for you? Would that work for you? Or let's say that only half of what I said was true, and it didn't work nearly as well as you thought it would work, and you only made $20,000 a year. Would it be worth it? Right? Yes or no? And then let's say that I really failed miserably and that I misled you, and my goal is not to do that, obviously. But let's say that that happened and you only made $10,000 a year. Would it be worth it? And if the answer is yes, then a way to look at this is not so much in terms of the investment to be in the program. It's what you're spending if you don't make the move, right? Like if you don't make the move and you believe you could make 10,000 a year, then you're spending $10,000 a year to not be there, right? Or if you could make 20,000 a year, lots of students make 20,000. We have students that make a couple 100,000 a year doing this type of stuff. There's conditions, right? You have to own stock to do it, but yeah, we got lots of students that do that. So if you were able to get started quick, and make 20,000 a year, then you're giving up $20,000 a year to not be there, right? So really, the nature of an investment is something where you should get back more than what you put in, and you have to have a reasonable belief that that is going to be the case. So if that works for you, then that would be a compelling reason to consider participating because you will be transformed. You will grow as an investor and be in a position to make moves. And we do this all the time as a class. There's proof everywhere. I encourage you just you could talk to a random student and ask them their experience, and they're going to say good things. All right. So a lot of students love our programs, and here's one quote from a guy named Danny Dean. He says, "I love the information given, the openness and honesty, the ability to be able to communicate with Dr. Boyce, to ask questions, or to gain positive insight." And Nathan Scott says, "Personally, I had no idea how to invest, how to save, or stocks. Put it like this: anything to do with finance, I would just get money and spend it. I would have been a millionaire 5 times over by now if I knew what I know now from the Black Business School." And believe it or not, I see this all the time. I see all the time people that were never. I feel like you were cheated a little bit because you should have learned these things as a kid. Somebody should have taught you these things, and I'm not mad at the people that raised you and didn't teach you because maybe they just didn't know. But now we know. Now we've got what we need. So I think it's our job to teach kids. I'm very much into the next generation. I'm into children in the future and what we can do when we prepare. And so if you want the specific financial results, this is just a screenshot of a comment a student made where he said he's making $2,500 a week selling covered calls. That's what they're called. When you own the stock and you sell the options, it's called a covered call. And he says this thing really works. I'll be paying off my car in 2 more weeks. You're the man. There's another couple I met with that in New York. They said that the wife said she quit her job because she was making consistent income with her options, and then her husband was on his way to quit his job. There's another family I met in Detroit, and they worked in the automobile industry, and they both combined income was a little over $100,000, and they had home equity. And what they did was they borrowed from the home equity, got a HELOC, that's what it's called, and they went ahead and they set it up like a little business. And I talked them through it, and I said, "Well, how much money are you seeking to make from this, right?" And I can't. I'm not a financial magician. I can't make something out of nothing. But if you got something, it's like quite easy to say, okay, well, here's what I would do. You could do this and this and this if you want to. I don't give investing advice, but I can tell them what I would do. And literally, I think they wanted to make $7,000 a month. By the time we were done, they had over 10,000 a month, right? Or there's another woman I met who was 55 years old. she'd been working for a company for 30 years and she'd put money in her retirement account. And what people don't know is that you can actually borrow against that, right? One reason it's not really easy to explain to young people to invest for retirement by saying, like, hey, if you sacrifice now, you'll have money when you're 65. Because if you're like me, when you were 25, you believe you would never be 65. I don't know if anybody else went through that. I just really thought that. And so a better way to look at it is that when you're making that investment toward retirement, you have an asset that can provide you with financial security because you have the ability to borrow against the asset, right? Like you can, they could call that loan to value ratio. So banks will loan you money faster if you have collateral than they will if you have a good credit score. Because collateral is better to credit scores are for people that don't have collateral. So basically, she was able to borrow against her retirement, so she didn't get the tax hit. And she had done such a good job saving all those years that, she told me how much money she wanted to make. I was like, well, you could make $30,000 a month in extra income if you wanted to. But then it's a matter of saying, well, how much income do you really need? Because if you don't need the income, you shouldn't just make a bunch of money so you can go waste it. You make what you need, like food. If I'm growing apples in my backyard and I can sell the apples or eat them, I don't eat apples until I become obese. I eat as much as I need and then I save the rest and sell them or I just let them grow or whatever it is, right? So the same thing is true with the income and the wealth. You pull the income that you need to pay your bills so that the wealth can sit back there and grow. The rest you just leave it in there, right? And that's to me, I found that to be a winning strategy. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'll give you the URL one more time if you want to join and participate. And one more thing I'll tell you too is that there's a risk-free, it's risk-free to you in the sense that we have a 30-day 100% money back guarantee. So if you join and you find that I'm full of crap or that it's just not for you or you have any hesitation, you can just email our support team. The email is support@theblackbusinessschool.com. Support@theblackbusinessschool.com. Email the support team. Tell them I want a refund. You ain't got to explain why. They're not going to hassle you. They will give you your money back. We do not want you to invest in us unless you feel that we're adequately able to invest in you. And the goal is the transformation. It is action. It is not just you know, feeling good or taking a class. There's plenty of stuff out there for that. All right. Let's see here. So Terrell says, how does this work when you have an investment banker? Just tell them what to do. Yeah, you can. If you know the terminology, you can just say, okay, I own 100 shares of this stock. You have to own 100 shares of a stock to sell a covered call. So you say, I own 100 shares of this stock, sell a call option on this stock, and here's the strike price, here's the expiration date, and that's the lingo. And if you know the lingo, then if you know the lingo, then you can play the bingo. That's me rhyming again. I know I do that. And so so let me see. Let's look at let me grab another question. All right, let's see. Another question I see here is from coaches. Oh, coaches M&M. All right. If you pay monthly, you still get the annual price of the $800 amount per year? No. The monthly cost, and I should have put that up on the screen. So the annual price is a reward for those that make the annual investment. If you want to know what the monthly fee is, and by the way, the code at drboyceprime.com, I think the code for monthly is just monthly, right? So the codes are different for annual or monthly, but the monthly fee is $3.99 per month. Today, we can reduce that to $2.39 per month, or actually, because you're here right now, you can actually get in for $151.62 per month. That code will not last more than another couple of days. But if you want to use this code, you can get them for $151.62 per month. So there's still a big discount if you do annual, but monthly is still the best price we can offer. So the URL is drboyceprime.com, and the code word is monthly. If you want to do the yearly plan, you put yearly, and you click yearly and then put yearly in there, and that'll give you your accurate prices. So here's one more quote from students. I love how you use everyday illustrations to explain what you're saying. Felicia says, the Black Business School has helped me and my family by providing a number of different areas for us to work on as a group to bring in additional income into our household. It's been so beneficial for us to learn about the different ways to create additional streams of income outside of paychecks so that we can eventually retire from having to work for somebody else. So these are the types of transformations that I enjoy seeing. I really, if you, unless you love your job, I really want to see you quit your job. But I know it takes time, but there's a process for that. I also don't want your children to have a job. I just don't. And so that's my personal bias. My personal bias is that you shouldn't have to spend your whole life working just so you can be financially insecure. And the reason I just think that the job is just such a crazy scam. Is it's like, how is it that we have so many people that work hard every day and they're not getting ahead financially? And here's the thing, when they're falling behind, there are people that are getting ahead, and they're getting ahead off the labor of other people because maybe those other people don't understand the system. The people that understand the system are able to make money, quite a lot of money, very, very easily. So let me show you. Let me just before we bounce out. And by the way, the URL is drboyceprime.com, and the discount codes are yearly or monthly. What's the deadline? 48 hours. So in 48 hours, they're going to change that code. So feel free to take a look. And let's see, if the price of the stock doesn't go above the strike price, do you exercise the option again for another month and so on? Well, you don't exercise. Remember, the exercise is in the rights of the person who owns the option. So if you sold the option, they have the option, you don't. But basically, if it doesn't go past the strike price, you can sell that option again. So literally, I've had stocks where I'd sell the option. I'd say, it's like throwing a carrot, holding a carrot up. Like, okay, if the stock jumps past the carrot, then you can buy my stock. And if it doesn't, then I get to do it again, right? And there are people that use stock like real estate. They just make the money from the options every month. Let me show you a real life example. This is a risky stock, no, but this is that Oklo stock. And let me show you how a person literally tomorrow could, if they own the stock, make this income. This is very straightforward. This is a Robinhood, right? So here, let's say you own 120 shares of this stock. Now the price is $96.90. 100 shares will cost 9,900 or $9,690. So, or if you had 1,000 shares, it will be $96,000. So let to make it sort of comparable to real estate, even though I know you can't buy a property for just $96,000. Let's pretend like you could buy a decent property for $96,000, and then I want you to imagine in your head how much rent could I collect from a property that I paid $96,000 for. It's not very much. Maybe it's $800 a month or something, right? But still, okay. So here, let's say I have 1,000 shares of this stock. So here's what I could do if I want to sell this option. This is called the options chain, and this is what we go through in class. We do a million examples, so over time it'll all make sense for you. So if I want to sell the option, I just click sell, because I could buy or I could sell. So I click sell. This is the stock Oklo, and it says sell call. Call options, there's only two types of options, a call and a put. We'll only talk about calls today because I don't want to confuse anybody. So I can sell this call, and the stock price is 96, and I have to pick an expiration date. So let's say I want to do this like a landlord, right? I want to earn landlord money. So I'm going to pick an expiration date of December 19th, which is about a month out. Every option has an expiration date, and then the price is 96. So the question is, then you get this menu, and it's like, well, what price are you willing to sell your stock for, right? So I could pick 100, 105, 110, 115, 120. Well, I may not want to pick a price way down here because then if the stock moves up a little bit, then I'm going to sell my stock cheap, right? But so maybe if I want some income, maybe I pick a price like 110. 110 is a pretty good jump. The stock would have to go up $14 a share to hit 110. So maybe I feel like that's a good number. So what that would then do is all these numbers in the middle are kind of insignificant, at least for today. But here is what they call the strike price. Here is how much money I get per share. $7.85 per share. Now, if I get $7.85 per share and I own 1,000 shares of this stock, somebody write it in the comments. How much money do I get? I get $7.85 per share. I have 1,000 shares. Somebody tell me how much cash I would get to sell that option. Somebody tell me, because I know some of y'all can probably do this play tomorrow because you're sitting on some money that you're not using, or maybe you and your family, you got a cousin that saves money and they want to quit their job, they just don't know how. It's better than starting that shea butter business. It's going to take 2 years to become profitable and drain all your money and all your time. I'm not making fun of anybody that sells shea butter. I'm not joking about. I'm not meaning to do that. But really, you start a business. Yeah, there's a lot of work, a lot of risk. 80% of all businesses fail. Actually, 80% of black-owned businesses fail in the first 2 or 3 years, and that's after you put in all your money, all that time, all that stress, all that. This is a business that not only doesn't take any work, and you can get your money out. That shea butter business, you can't sell that business. Once you put the money in, it's gone, right? You can sell the asset, get the money out right away. You can start tomorrow. It's you don't have to do any work, and you get $7,840 doing exactly what I just showed you just now. Some of y'all have smart 8-year olds in your house that could do this. I just showed you. This is exactly, and this is not pretend. This is not theoretical. A lot of people talk about pie in the sky, hopes and dreams, and you might make money, day trading coaches. No, no, I don't do day trading. I don't mess with that. No disrespect, but that's not my thing. Um, this is real. I like things that are real, that solve real problems in a real and concrete way. So that $7,840, here's what would happen. I go in the app, boop, 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 don't talk to a single human being. I do this while I'm laying in bed with my wife, and I say, I've got 1,000 shares of this stock. I'm willing to sell the 1,000 shares for 110 within the next month. They instantaneously, at that very moment, give me 9,000 or $7,840 in cash. Now, remember, everything has risk. Where's the risk? You should always be asking that. You should always say, well, where's the catch? Well, here's the catch. The catch is that you're the owner of the stock. You're holding the hot potato. So being an owner of an asset has ups and downs. It's like being married. My wife and I own each other. And sometimes I'm sure she wants to sell me up the river. Sometimes my stock price plummets in her eyes, right? And so ultimately, when you own the stock, this is another part of it. You have to be willing to own the stock. If you're the owner, you get the upside, but you also get the downside, right? And the reason that people will pay so much for Oklo's options is because Oklo is a stock that has a tremendous amount of potential. That means it has potential to go up and it has potential to go down. And I have been an owner of Oklo stock for years because I know how to ride the Bronco and not freak out. But that does not mean that the Bronco ain't tried to shake me a little bit, right? The stock does that. Right now, the stock is having a really hard week. Right? Oklo's been getting its butt kicked, but because I know investing, it's not a big deal. It's like, the stock's getting temperamental. I raise teenage daughters, and if you know teenage girls, and how moody they can be, then you just know the rule. The rule is just don't freak out. Just sit and listen. She's crying, and the other day our 15-year-old was having a breakdown because her hair was messed up and because her ponytail was too frizzy or something. And I said, well, your ponytail looks fine, but what do I know about hair? I don't even got no hair. But I'm like, it looks great. What are you talking? Then I just stayed calm, and by the end of the day, she was fine, right? So stocks, some of these volatile stocks are like raising teenage kids. That's what they are, really. They just go crazy, but you form a thesis on the stock. Like, why do I want to own this asset? Why am I okay with owning the asset? And this is the kind of stuff we talk through in class. And I'd let them know I'm an owner in this stock because I believe in the long-term potential of artificial intelligence, and I know that there's going to be an energy shortage. Oklo, it has some high probability of making these small modular reactors, but then again, they may not actually get the job done, but I think that they will. And if they do, it's going to be a massive payday. But if they don't, then it could be costly. But still, I'm willing to take that risk. But in the meantime, because I don't want to take all the risk, I'm going to go ahead and get what I can out of this stock while the getting is good. These are the kinds of logical processes that you go through so you can say I'm okay owning the stock, and the stock becomes like a little business. I mean, you think about this, right? You got a family, y'all sit, you pull your money together, you're all sitting on $100,000 and thinking, what do we do? Do we pour it into a business, or do we buy into a real estate deal? I mean, it's fine, but you got to make sure that it works for you. Or maybe we just all put the money together, buy some stock. We're on day one, we're collecting the $7,800 payout. We split it up between me, my sister, and cousin Willie, and then we wait and see what happens. And we prepare for the ride. The stock is going to move and it can go down, but also remember, this is also a stock that went up a lot. It went up from $8 to $171. But then it went from 171 down to 96, and I rode the wave the entire time, right? So there's a calmness with investing that you might want to consider. And if you can't do that yet, if it doesn't work for you, then that may not be the stock for you. But the beautiful part is that there are tons of stocks you can sell options on. Almost all the stocks have an options market. That's the other part of the market that people don't talk about so much. And in all those markets, there are buyers and sellers. There are trades happening where one person is giving up money, the other person is receiving money. I like to receive the money because I got a wife and kids and we have to pay bills. And this is what we focus on. So last point I'll make before I give you guys I'll give you the website and then I'll make the last point. So the website, if you want to join, write it down. It's drboyceprime.com. If you decide to go with the annual option with the discounted price, just click yearly or click the annual and use the code yearly. There'll be a code in there already. It's already a really good price. But if you want the best price, the one that I offered you for today, put that code, replace that code and put the word yearly in there. And you'll drop your price down. And if you pick the monthly option, then just use the code monthly and that'll give you the discount. So the last point I'll make on this is that what the goal of the class is. I like to keep things simple so we can achieve simple objectives. Uh, the goal of the class is twofold: income and consistency. That's it. Income and consistency. Now, in the stock market class, the goal is long-term capital appreciation. So that's where you're picking stocks, you're buying them, you're holding them, Warren Buffett style. You're investing in good businesses with good cash flow and all that. That's not what we do in this class. In this class, the goal is how do we pick stocks that help us pay bills and how do we manage the risk on those assets while we're holding the stock? Because as someone mentioned when they asked a really good question, which is what can go wrong? How can you lose money? Well, you can lose money by not knowing what you're doing, right? Because you really are, you're really, it's like you own a baby. Owning a stock like that, it's like having a pet pit bull and you're making lots of money with the pit bull, but you have to keep the pit bull in the cage. And that is what you call risk management. And so, fortunately, my whole doctoral process was spent studying risk management. I proofread a whole book on risk for my dissertation, for well, not my dissertation chair, but one of the faculty in our department at Ohio State. So, risk is important, risk is big. I encourage you to think about risk when you invest. One thing that happens is that most American workers are not trained on risk, which is why they believe in fairy tales like the term job security. There is no security when all your income comes from one place. Do you understand what I'm saying? When all your money comes from one place, you're a single parent that has one job with one stream of income, no savings, no backup, no side hustles, no multiple streams. That's as risky as it gets. So to use the term job security, that term makes no sense to me. That's an oxymoron. It's like somebody telling me about hoe power. Like they ain't no power. I wouldn't tell my daughters there's power in being a hoe. Like I don't know. No, there's not. Stop that. You're blending two things that should not be blended. So job security isn't usually a real thing. Even in the jobs that we used to think were secure. Anybody remember when we used to think government jobs were secure? Anybody remember that? You get hired from the government, they can never. Well, I think Mr. Trump informed you that that's not the case. Security is something you create for yourself, and you create it through diversified revenue streams. You create it by having multiple capital bases that can defend you in the event of an economic storm. So, security, to me, looks like this: it's when you got income coming from multiple sources. This is why families are so important. When they taught us to forget about families and the value of family, they killed a ton of wealth when they got us acting like family doesn't matter. But multiple people making money makes a difference. My wife makes money, I make money. We're a little more secure than if we're doing it by ourselves. Number two, in addition to extra income streams, ownership of business, not running businesses, owning businesses. You don't have to run the business if you own it. What else? Real estate. You have real estate. That's another asset that has value that you can extract from in case of emergency. And then, of course, you got the stock market. And then when you own stocks, you own lots of different stocks. You spread your money out and you have money in multiple places. And what you're basically doing is you're protecting yourself from the storm. When life comes and hits you hard, it has to hit you really hard to affect your financial security because you've got security in so many different places. You've got a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, and a plan E. Shout out to my grandma because that's how my grandmother lived. My grandmother always had a what if for the what if for the what if. So and she didn't have to go to school to learn that. She just learned very early about living within your means and being protective of your finances. So job security is something you create for yourself. Don't ever let anybody tell you different. That's the fact. All right. So I'm going to let you guys go. I want to say thank you. It was an honor to get an opportunity to address you. Those that are new, welcome to the family. Maybe you'll come back. Those who are not new, then I'm good to see you again. And if you want to join the program, you go to drboyceprime.com, drboyceprime.com. Also, if you pull out your phone and you want to be notified when we're doing options related events, we have a stock options summit that's very popular. We're going to do another one in the Black Business School. Pull out your phone, text the word options to the number 87948. So options with an S to the phone number 87948, and you'll hear from us when we meet for class, and you can decide whether you want to join us or not. All right. So God bless you. Have a good night, everybody. It was real. I'll see you later. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.